If you've wanted to scale your business faster without you having to work 12 to 16 hours a day, then hiring remote talent can be the best way to do that. So in this video, I'll be sharing the full step-by-step guide to hiring remote employees that can actually take work off your plate, drive your business forward, and help you finally get the financial freedom that you started your business for in the first place. My name's Chris, and over the past decade, I've built 3 businesses to 7 figures and beyond, all by hiring remote talent that made it possible for me to do this without having to work 12 to 16 hours a day. And through our recruitment service, we've helped hundreds of business owners do exactly the same thing. So in this video, I'm going to break down the entire process step by step on how to clearly define who you need, where and how to find the best remote candidates, not the B and C players, the top tier A player talent, how to quickly interview and find those A players and identify them when you find them, how to onboard your new hires so you can have long-term success and work with these people for many years to come and not just a couple weeks or a couple months, and how to build a fully remote team that helps you scale and get more work done without taking up too much time from you. All right, so let's get straight into it. So before you actually go and post a job, you need to get organized first. Either you know what you need to hire for or you don't know what you need to hire for. If you do know what you need to hire for, well, that makes things a lot easier. So the first thing you need to do is go and map out the role and the responsibilities that you're going to go hire the person for so you can put together a job description. Here's a piece of advice. Don't overcomplicate it. I guarantee you, once you hire the person and you onboard them and you start working with them, their role and their specific responsibilities, they're just going to naturally evolve over time. So don't have paralysis by analysis and try to plan out every single little freaking detail, or you're just going to spin your wheels and you're going to end up changing it anyways. But if you have no idea what you want to go hire for, you obviously need to go plan that out first. I've made some other videos on this before. What I personally like to do is use a tool called Miro, M-I-R-O, and I will sit down with Miro on my computer. It's a workflow mapping software, and I'll map out literally every single thing that I do on a daily basis or everything that I do within that set of tasks that I'm looking to delegate. And then from there, once you sit down and you map out everything you spend your time on, that'll give you way more clarity on what you're actually going to go hire for. And then you can obviously put together the job description at that point. And again, just like I said before, to the people that do know what they're going to hire for, don't go into too much detail. Just get the base of it done. Get like 60 to 70% of it done. Most people that you're gonna hire, as long as you tell them up front, hey, this is like the bulk of what you're gonna do, but it's subject to change. This is gonna evolve over time. Most people don't care. They're gonna go with it. As long as you're not throwing in something completely random. Like for example, you hire a video editor and then after 2 weeks, you're like, hey, you're gonna go cold call and you're gonna dial for dollars. People aren't gonna wanna do that. As long as it's generally within the realm of their original role and responsibilities, you can add stuff in later. You don't need to plan everything out to a T up front. So that being said, when you actually end up finding the person you want to hire, it is very important to set crystal clear expectations up front. This is your foundation for building a successful long-term relationship. Now, in a perfect world, whenever you go to hire someone, they never quit. You train them once, you invest into them over time, they get better and better and better as the years go by. 5 years go by, 10 years goes by, you're still working with them, you get these compounded returns. As opposed to you hire someone after a couple weeks or a month or a couple months, they quit, you fire them, whatever happens, you got to go find someone new. Everything that you put into that was for a waste and you got to start over. Obviously, you don't want that. So it's very, very important that in order to avoid wasting your time, you set very clear expectations up front. So in order for you to set clear expectations, you have to know what the heck your expectations even are. So if you haven't put any time into this, you need to think through exactly what you want this person to be doing for you and what that looks like. Now, I know I said before, you don't need to know every single little detail of the actual role and responsibility, but you need to know in your head what good performance looks like. So although you don't need to map out every single granular detail of what the person's roles and responsibility is from day one, you ideally have as much as possible though. You do need to set very clear expectations so that the person has a framework to work off of to know how to be successful and how to make you happy. So for example, if you hire someone to cold call and you don't go and tell them, hey, I want you to go and make 100 cold calls a day and send me a summary of your work at the end of the day, Don't expect the person to read your mind and go ahead and do that, even though it's a pretty basic procedure. The more clear that you can set expectations, the better, because that way the person doesn't have to read your mind, and that way the person can actually meet your expectations. The other thing you want to do is you want to ideally find out what their expectations are of you. Many people fail to do this. They don't even think of doing this. And this is something that you want to do while you're interviewing them before you even hire them. You don't want to wait a couple weeks or a month to figure out what their expectations are, and then you go down the road and you're like, crap, these are completely unrealistic expectations, and I can't triple this person's salary in a month, even though that's what their expectation was. Obviously, that's an extreme example that's a little exaggerated. The point is, you want to figure out what their expectations are during the interview before you even offer them the job, if these are things that you can meet, and if the person is going to be a good person to work with. Okay, so here's a quick story of someone that I hired where I didn't prepare and I decided to completely wing it, and it didn't go very well. So I hired someone to assist me with marketing, and I thought that I could just wing it and build her role over time, because I've done that with other roles in the past before and it's worked out. So I went and posted a digital marketing role in Latin America and interviewed about a dozen people, which probably wasn't enough. And I hired this woman in Colombia. So she started, and I thought she had a pretty good framework to go off of as far as her experience goes. And I thought that I could just train her and we could figure it out as we went. What ended up happening was I had a bunch of other things pop up within my business once she started. And over the first 2 weeks, I just had no time to actually plan out what she was going to do and train her. So what happened over the first 2 weeks was I would just scramble around, try to give her some work. She would follow up with me and be like, hey, I got it done. What else do you want me to do? She was sitting around idle, and it was like kind of awkward because I didn't do the work up front to really prepare what her role was going to be and how she was going to execute on that and what that looked like day to day. So that was a complete failure of preparation on my part, and it was a mistake that I learned a long time ago that I try at all costs to not repeat. What ended up happening was I became way too busy to actually show her what to do, and she was getting frustrated and, like, admittedly kind of annoying following up with me all the time, and I had to let her go, and it was just a giant waste of time, and that was completely my fault. So if you've never hired someone remotely before outside the US, you might be thinking, okay, where do these people live? Where do I find them? How does this even work? So it's really quite simple. There's a number of countries that you want to focus on. I'm going to run through those right now. So the number one spot to hire people from is the Philippines, and I've covered in some other videos as to the reason why, but simply put, they have perfect English. They learn English from little kids. There's zero communication issues. You can put people on the phone. They can talk to clients. They're easy for you to talk to, etc. The Philippines also has 500,000 people graduating from college every single year. So they have a great labor force that's educated. They also have a lot of American influence in their culture. Many of them are working for Americans right now, either online like this as a virtual assistant, or within a big company like a T-Mobile or Shopify, some kind of company like that has outsourced part of their company to the Philippines. You have perfect English, college educated individuals, people that are working with Americans. It just creates a really good labor force to draw from. Another great country with a similar price point as the Philippines is Egypt. These are the two lowest cost regions other than like India and Bangladesh and Pakistan, which I don't recommend for a number of different reasons that I won't get into right now. And then also we hire from different countries in Latin America if you need a Spanish speaker or someone that's like a little bit better with sales or maybe a little bit more aggressive. And then South Africa is another great place to hire from for different cultural reasons, which I'll get into in another video. The way to actually find these people is obviously online. There's a number of different job boards online. There's Facebook groups. You can run Facebook ads. If you have a good sized social media following, you can post a story on Instagram, or you can make a TikTok video. You basically just need to use internet marketing to get the job role out there to as many people as humanly possible. When it comes to hiring, it's really a numbers game. So the way you're going to be successful doing this, and the way that you're going to find the top talent, people that are really going to be impactful in your business, is by casting the widest net humanly possible. It's just like if you're building your business and you're going out trying to find clients, you don't want to focus on one channel and just get like a couple of different prospects to choose from. You want to blast your marketing out as much as you can can within reason, as long as it's profitable, to attract as many potential customers as you can so you can pick out the best ones and not have to be stuck with bad clients. You want to do the same thing when you're hiring. You want to get out in front of as many people as you can because it's just going to increase the probability that you're going to find the top talent. So for that reason, you want to use as many job boards as you can. You want to use Facebook, you want to use Instagram, you want to use TikTok, you want to use LinkedIn. Every single platform that you can reach people on where people are looking for jobs, you want to post that job. Since I have a recruitment business in which you work one-on-one with a recruiter who goes out and interviews dozens of candidates for you up until you hire somebody and we do all the heavy lifting for you. And since we do that for hundreds and hundreds of business owners at a given time, we also have a ton of candidates coming directly to us. That's a unique advantage that I have since I have a recruitment business and since we're already looking at tens of thousands of candidates a month. We probably screen 30 to 40,000 individual candidates a month for all the jobs that we have posted at this point. So just by sheer volume of people coming to us, we ended up finding really good people that you probably wouldn't otherwise find online. So after you get your job posted, now it's time to screen applicants, it's time to interview people, and it's really time to vet people thoroughly so you don't miss-hire and end up having to go back out into the marketplace in a couple months and rehire. Most people think that you can just look at a resume, size someone up, and figure out who they are and if they're a good fit. If that's you, I'd like to say that you're completely misinformed, and that's very naive because the fact of the matter is that most people, especially in a remote setting, they're just going to lie on their resume. I'm not saying the whole thing's going to be fake, but it's definitely not going to be entirely true. So you need to take their resume with a grain of salt. Most people are probably going to use AI if they're smart to write their resume as well. So once you get into the interview, you need to really grill them. I can't tell you how many times we get into interviews with people, we pull up their resume, and funny enough, maybe someone on my team has actually worked at the same company as this person in the past, although that person doesn't know that. And they start asking about the role and the company and the accounts that they worked on, the clients they worked for, etc. They find out the person's kind of BSing and they're kind of inflating the level of work that they participated in, and they're trying to make it sound like they were more successful than they were. So you need to really be able to spot these things when you're interviewing people. Do not take anyone's resume at face value. You really need to dig in. You need to pick it apart. You need to assume that there's some bullshit in there and that your job is to go in and sniff it out. So other than a resume, the next thing you want to look for are how are their communication skills. So think about it. If you're going to be working with this person on a daily basis, you need it to be easy, like really easy and seamless to communicate with them. So putting English proficiency aside, because we won't even interview anyone if they don't have perfect English, it's a complete waste of time. How are they at articulating themselves? When they're communicating to you and responding to your interview questions, is it easy to understand? Or are you sitting there like kind of scratching your head? You're thinking like, what the heck did this person just say? If you're not having a seamless conversation with the person, assuming they're not like a video editor that's like a really good video editor, you probably don't want to hire them. It's just going to make your life more difficult. If they're in any kind of sales role or an appointment setting role or cold calling or anything like that, where they're actually in a role where their job is literally to communicate with people and get them interested in your product or service, and they're not a good communicator, you need to get rid of them immediately. The next thing that we do to just get like a little taste for how the person actually performs and what their work quality looks like is we'll actually give them some test tasks during the interview process to just get a feel for them and see how they show up when they're actually working. Because a lot of people can talk the talk, but they can't walk the walk. They'll sound good in the interview, they'll know the right things to say, maybe they're good at interviewing, which is a skill in and of itself, but when it comes time to actually perform and do the work, they end up sucking. Now, conversely, you might get some people that are just really bad at interviewing, but maybe they're really good at the work. You need to make sure you don't just get rid of those people because they're bad at interviewing and maybe they're like a little bit more shy and they might be really good at the work. You need to be able to spot those people, and then you need to be able to filter those people through, allow them to do a test task, and then see how they perform on the test. So one red flag that I have been burned by many times before, and I don't know why I didn't learn this lesson faster, is really revolving around compensation. So here's what I mean. So at this point, when I'm personally hiring people, I don't talk to them unless my team has thoroughly vetted them. So my recruitment team will talk to them, my operations team will talk talk to them, and then the candidate will get to me, and I'll usually have just like a quick conversation with them because they've already been vetted. I've already watched their interview recording, and I'll talk to them and I'll make the final decision about if I want to hire them. Now, this is only for roles that are not repetitive that I actually want to have a say on. A lot of the roles that I personally hire for at this point, I don't even talk to the people, I don't even meet them. So there was a guy I actually interviewed about a week ago who I was excited about. He looked like a great prospect, and when I showed up to meet him, he was like, "So what does the job pay?" And my initial response was, "Dude, it's the amount that we already told you 2 times. Why are you asking me, the CEO, what the job pays? Are you serious?" This is a red flag to me because my recruiter already talked to him. A second recruiter already told them. My operations team already told them what the role paid. So if I'm the 4th person he's talking to, why the heck is he asking me what the job is paying? Was he not paying attention? What's the deal? So what he was doing was he was trying to see if I had any room in the salary and would be willing to pay him more. Now, this is a complete waste of my time, which is why I already had 3 people ahead of me already verify this with him. So he didn't waste my time, and I didn't have to spend my time talking to someone who wasn't already okay and excited and grateful for the compensation. Whenever I've had someone do this in an interview where they try to negotiate or they act like they forgot what it was and it just doesn't really go smoothly, even though I already have processes set up to vet them and make sure this shit doesn't happen, if I end up hiring them, 9 times out of 10, they end up being a huge pain in the butt, and they don't understand the fundamental principle of how to actually get a pay raise. So the way that someone should actually get a pay raise is by coming into your company, over delivering, helping you make money, and being easy to work with. That's how they earn more money. You need to tell this to people up front too. Now, some people think that they can get a pay raise just because they asked for it, just because they showed up and they're entitled to it. So when people are doing what I mentioned he was doing in the interview before, it's really an attitude of entitlement, and it's a big red flag that you need to look out for and ideally screen those people out right from the get-go. What you want is you want someone who's okay with the salary. It's a good opportunity for them. They're grateful for it. And then they understand how to actually get a pay raise. And they understand that they have to come in and contribute and over deliver and help you make more money to get that pay raise. You don't want someone who's just entitled and who's going to try to extract more than they're delivering. So a great hire is someone who is in the interview and they completely understand what the role is. They understand your business. They understand how their role is going to come in and actually impact your business. Maybe they don't understand this off the bat, but they should get to the point of understanding from a conversation and dialogue with you from going back and forth in the interview. So you need to get them to that point of understanding, but they should eventually get to the point where they understand how to come in and be impactful on day 1. So let's say you're going to hire someone for marketing, and this person actually understands in the interview how them coming into your business and executing on certain tasks like creating content, engaging with your audience, and really just helping you get your message out there is really going to help scale your business. The reason it's so much better if the person actually gets it and they actually understand how their role impacts your business is that once they get hired, if you're not able to give them constant attention right off the bat, if they conceptually understand how to impact your business in a positive way, they can just proactively and intuitively go and get work done and improve processes and create new processes that you didn't even tell them to do without your input. If they're completely clueless and they're just an order taker and they're going through the motions, they're just trying to collect a paycheck and do the bare minimum to not get fired, that's not going to happen. They're going to need a lot of hand-holding. It's going to be a giant pain in the butt. All right, so let's now shift into how to onboard remote employees and set up processes from the get-go to really set them up for success. So like I said a couple times so far, you don't want to overthink this. Don't do so much work up front that you get paralysis by analysis and you end up never hiring someone. But ideally, so you don't end up like me when I hired the marketing role that I mentioned earlier, you need to do some work up front. So when the person gets started on day 1, you can actually have some direction, some clarity, and a base framework to work off of. Maybe you don't have time to do that up front, but at the bare minimum, you should block off like 2 hours of time on their first day and share a screen and pull up a Google Doc and really build out their SOPs, the basics of their role with them. And then maybe that could be their first day of training. But point being, don't be one of those people that hires somebody, like me with the marketing role and didn't do any work up front. You're going to completely wing it and you didn't prepare at all. You're also not sending a good message to the person that's working for you. You're not going to give them the warm and fuzzies about their job security and their long-term involvement with your company. So ideally, do some work up front. Try to map out as much as you can. But again, don't overdo it. Maybe do like 70 to 80% of what you actually need to map out long term. And then a lot of the SOPs, assuming this isn't a role that you've hired for like 5 to 10 times before, like I have in my call center, you're going to need to build out over time, which is totally okay. Ideally, as you're building out the SOPs with this person, you're training them and you're onboarding them over the first couple of weeks, you can have them build out their own training materials. And here's one really important tip. Now that we have AI, you need to record every single conversation that you have with this candidate so you can transcribe it and then you can feed it back into AI to help improve and strengthen your training materials and your SOPs. Okay, now that you set up the basics, let's talk about some best practices for communication. If you just hired one person or even 2 or 3 people, WhatsApp is actually a great tool to really communicate with these people day to day. You can text them, you can call them, you can video chat them, it's on your phone, it's on your computer. It's really a good way to efficiently communicate. Other than that, you can also get a phone number on Dialpad or Ring Central, which I've had some questionable experiences with, or you can do Skype or Google Voice or some kind of other voice over IP phone number like that. But honestly, I think WhatsApp is probably the way to go unless you have like 10 to 20 people. So not only is it important to get the communication method and software technology part of it actually up and running, but you also want to set expectations and a communication rhythm that you're expecting from the person. For example, every day when they show up to work, they send you a quick text. They say, "Hey boss, I'm clocking in. Here's what I'm going to work on for today." And then when they go to lunch, they're like, "Hey boss, I'm going to take my lunch. Hey boss, I'm back from lunch." That way you actually know what the person's doing. They're not off on a complete island with too much autonomy where you don't know what's going on. You don't want to give them too much freedom. But at the same time, you don't want to micromanage the heck out of them or they're not going to like you. And then at the end of the day, it would be great if they sent you either a text or an email, whatever your preference is, on what they accomplished that day and a summary of it, depending on whatever kind of work they did. And then also in that summary, they tell you what they're going to be working on the next day. So the rhythm is text you or email you when they log in, same thing for lunch and coming back from lunch, send you a summary at the end of the day, letting you know what they got done and what's coming up. That way you can manage what their workload is and what they have coming up on their plate. And you can manage all of this without you having to track them down and ask questions and try to figure it out yourself. You want them to push a lot of this information to you so you can just receive it, digest it, and give direction and then move on. Another thing that's incredibly helpful when onboarding the person is really setting goals for the first 30, 60, 90 days. Now, if you have no idea what these goals are, just do your best. Set some like base level benchmarks that you can both strive towards. You should ideally have a general idea of where you want the person to be after 30 to 60, 90 days so that you as a leader have a clear direction to move towards with this new hire. And then you should set meetings for 30 to 60, 90 days in to review those goals, see how your progress is to make sure things are kept on track. All right, so let's talk about some of the biggest mistakes that I see our clients make when they're hiring remote talent. The first one is they just hire way too quickly. So like I was saying before, in order to find the best talent out there, it's a numbers game. You need to go through a lot of candidates. You need to cast a huge net. You can't just go get like 5 to 10 applications and hire somebody. Now, that being said, could you get lucky? Could you find someone quickly? Yeah, sure, anything's possible, but are you likely to? No, not really. You're more likely to go interview like 20 to 30 people and shortlist like 4 to 6 or 7 people that you think are really good fits before you end up finding somebody that is a great fit. So point being, you think you're going to go interview like 2 or 3 people and you're going to get an A player that's going to stick around for like 5 years. Probably ain't gonna happen. The next biggest mistake I see people make, which is probably even bigger than the first one, I should have put this one first, is hiring people based on their salary amount rather than how much value that they're actually gonna contribute to the company. So basically they're being cheap. And they're trying to hire people for like the lowest amount possible, and they're trying to pinch pennies, and they're not really looking at the productive output that the person is providing to the business. All you really care about at the end of the day is how much money is the person helping you make. You don't care how much money you're making them. You don't care if you're paying $1,000 or $2,000 a month. It depends on what they're actually putting out on the other end. Now, if they're in a really routine role, like they're in a call center and they're just answering calls, and like the amount of productive output that they're going to give your business is really capped because it's a repetitive role, yeah, that's a different situation. In those instances, you don't want to just throw money away and overpay people if you're only going to get like this much more productive output. But if you're going to hire someone for a different type of role where what they put in is what they get out, those types of roles, you don't really care what you're going to pay them. You just care what's coming out on the back end in terms of their productivity. So a lot of people will go and say like, okay, I want to hire a salesperson, but I want to pay him like bare minimum. This is a perfect example of someone just being cheap but not realizing that if you go and hire bare minimum salespeople, you're probably going to get bare minimum results. Why would you want that? You need to invest more money into better quality people to get better quality work so that you can make more money and you can grow your business faster. That's really what you're concerned about. So in summary, don't cheap out depending on what the role is. You want to hire good quality people. You want good talent. The third biggest mistake people make is what I was talking about earlier, which is onboarding the remote employee properly and successfully and really setting them up for success. People think that they're just going to wing it. They think that the person's going to be like fully trained before they come in their business and that the person is just going to know exactly what to do in every single process, even though they've gotten barely any direction. They've never met you before. They're working remotely and they're trying to figure it out on their own. If you think that you're going to hire someone and you're just going to throw them into the fire and be like, hey, go figure out X, Y, and Z without any training, and you're expecting them to produce a result, you're completely unrealistic. You need to train people and you need to train them over and over and over, and you need to put in the work. Many people are just lazy and they don't want to put in the work of training the people because it is a lot of work and it is frustrating, and you do have to repeat yourself and you do have to show people how to do stuff over and over that you already showed them, and sometimes you have to treat them like babies. But guess what? That's just how human beings are. So until AI gets to the point where we don't need people at all, guess what? You got to go put in the work and you got to train people. All right, so there you go. There's your step-by-step guide on how to successfully hire remote employees for your business. If you're feeling overwhelmed trying to find the right remote employee for your business, my team and I can do it for you. We handle the entire recruitment process from start to finish and do all the heavy lifting for you, and you end up with a VA that you can trust, all without paying the high cost of hiring a US employee. And we've helped hundreds of business owners place virtual assistants into their business for any type of remote role. If that sounds like something that you need help with, book a call with my team. You can find a link in the description. All right, make sure to hit subscribe, hit the like button. I'll see you in the next video.